Hi, this is Nancy Ralsima with On Point TV. Thank you for returning as we continue to make the Great Lakes Journey quilt, also known as Learning to Quilt Too. So if you recall, I do have an entire series in a book called Learning to Quilt. And in Learning to Quilt, I'm dealing with very beginner processes. So doing things, rail fences and 9-patches and kind of starting out at the very beginning. So this is definitely a more complicated quilt, which also means that I'm expecting that maybe you know a little bit already. So I'm not taking you through every single detail, but just keep that in mind as you try to work on this quilt. It's really not that hard, just taking it one step at a time. So last time we were together, we worked on the Mariner's Compass. So with the Mariner's Compass, we had the paper piecing points, we had the machine applique center, and then we actually pieced in the entire circle going around as a set in circle. And I thought it turned out really nice, and I'm thinking that yours probably did too. The second part that we did was the reverse applique. So on this quilt on the table, that was the light color here. On the one behind me, it was the black. And so this is the other colorway. So in the book, I take you through the dark colorway, or I give you the yardage and the placements for what I call the dark colorway and the light colorway. In the first two episodes, the light colorway was behind me, and this time we have the dark colorway. So here, these are the reverse applique. So the ending part of the reverse applique is to take that square that had two of these pieces all in one square, cut it down the middle. You do want to trim off the back here and then put it onto your trimmed down Mariner's Compass. At that point, if you're following this pattern, then you're going to add a sashing to it and then add the large corner triangles, and that's what's here. And in this quilt, it's these large flowers. Now, everything up until now, I think that I've covered many different things in between Learning to Quilt and other quilts that we've done on the show. But what I've never taught you is how to trim down a really large square. Now, we've done before doing things that were 18 inches, maybe, about that size, because our freezer paper is 18 inches. And when you have to trim down something to about an 18 or an 18 and a half, you can use your freezer paper. Well, this big center actually needs to be trimmed down to 43 inches. Yeah, there's no freezer paper that big. So I want to show you how I would do it using my extra large Omni Grid and a regular 6-inch Omni Grid. So the first thing I would do is fold this large center in half. And I'm using like the little corner, the cornerstone right here. I'm using that as my marker to say that's half of it. So I want to put a pin here, and I want to be very methodical and take my way all the way around the quilt, making sure that I've got it folded in the center there. Then I'm going to fold it this way. And when I do that, I've got to find the centers of these. Okay, so I'm going to fold this one. There he is. There's his center, using that cornerstone as my gauge, telling me that that's where the center should be. Then I'm going to match it up with this one. There he is. Now I'm going to fold or pin these two together. Take your time. Don't rush through it, okay? You really want to be sure that your two centers on this particular fold, this is the harder one to do. There we go. Now I'm going to pin these. Right about there. Right. Now, if you're at home, you're going to get out your calculator because you need to find out what is half of whatever the large size that you need. And for this one, we're looking at like a 43 inch. So that means I'm going to need, the half mark is 21 and a half inches. So 43 divided by 2 is 21 and a half inches. I've got all my layers together, my center lines here and on the two folds, and then up here at the top, my 4 fabrics all coming together right there. So now I'm going to use my really big square ruler. that if you were here last time, you'll remember that I said, yeah, it's got a little crack down here in the bottom. That happens. Okay. I'm going to place this on the fold, and I'm going to use my 6-inch because my 6-inch can, my 6x24 can go all the way to the top. Here's my cutter. And I only have to cut 2 sides. I don't have to cut all 4, okay? So, oops, got a little bit of a fold here. There, all right? So here I've got, there. I want to be sure that you guys can see this as much as possible. All right. So I'm going to do 21.5 inches. So this measures 6 inches. Now I'm going to go all the way across to 10. That's 16. Then I'm going to just start my count. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.5. So I want to place the left hand fold of my piece on the 15.5 inch line of my big square, because 15.5 plus 6 equals 21.5, right? Okay, I'm actually asking the crew here. Yes, they're saying it's right. Now, I am also looking down here to be sure that that point is at least 1/4 of an inch from the end. So let's see. There we go. So this cornerstone point needs to finish. I cannot trim it more, any less than 1/4 of an inch from the edge. So here's my cornerstone point. I can't trim it any shorter than that. So let's see how that works. So I've got 15.5 on my big square ruler. Here's my 6-inch, and I see my cornerstone point, and I have at least 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to take that pin out so that my ruler doesn't rest on it. And as I cut this large guy, I'm going to bring him a little bit closer to me. I'm going to start here and watch what my left hand does. It walks up the ruler as I go so that it does not slide out from under me. Ooh, I got it. And then before you lift up the ruler, be sure you got a clean cut. Ooh, got a clean cut. Now I'm going to lift up my big rulers and spin my piece just 1/4 turn and do that same measurement. So I'm going to take my pin out there, place this down, and I need the same 15.5 on the fold. There. 6 inches looking at my cornerstone, and you might not be able to see it, but I do. I know that my cornerstone corner is at least 1/4 of an inch from the edge. And at this point, I'm also going to make sure that my horizontal line down here that I just trimmed is also correct. So 15.5, 6 inches, 1/4 inch, horizontal point. Lots of little things that you just want to make sure, and it comes down to the measure 3 times, cut once kind of an idea, and then walk your hand up as you are cutting it. There we go. Clean cut. So I have him all squared up, and when we come back, I'm going to start talking to you about the next step on this quilt.